While camping on the Salton Sea, I would often sit at my campsite at night and glance over and wonder what was over there. So far, I've showed you some of the history, some places to camp, some unusual spots to check out while you're there, the wild and wet side, the south side with not only its nature but agriculture and energy. And now I'm going to take you to what's on the other side, the west side of the Salton Lake. You can't get anywhere coming from the south without going through the border patrol, which went a little easier than I thought. Only 30 miles from the lake on the west are the Ocatilla Wells and the Anza-Borrego State Park. So I went over to check it out, and you can boondock here. It's all sand, and as you can see, I stayed on the pavement the whole time. This was my destination, and I was going to try out the main campground. And to get oriented, I always stop at the visitor center. They had a really nice little garden, and of course they had a museum, and they had a movie, although the movie was not all that exciting or informative. And I always look for what they're saying about the Native American inhabitants that they got the land from. The main campground is right across from the visitor center, right across the field. It was really crowded. And this is supposed to be a dark park, but there were many lights, all the RVs. So I moved up a few thousand feet into another campground that was a little more primitive and not so crowded, but it was a little colder, and it did rain a couple days while I was there. If I didn't have a campfire, I was inside. On the first halfway decent day, I decided I would take a little hike. They have 2 trails leading from the campground. Yaqui Wells Trail was supposed to be pretty easy, so of course that's the one I took. It's about a mile. And when I picked up a trail guide, the camp host said if I wasn't back in a couple hours, they'd come looking for me. I guess that was supposed to make me feel safe. But I'm not really a hiker. I'm a meanderer. So I thought afterwards I should have told her 3 hours. Okay, I've come all the way up this far from that road. See way down there? All the way up here. The trail guide had nothing about the trail. It was identifying the plants at these numbers. I never found anything past number 5. Up and up and up I went because I got confused. But I saw some really beautiful cactus and there were some things in bloom. I have no idea how far up this goes. I'm not even sure I'm on the path. So I'm probably going to turn around in a minute. It's kind of a shame, but... I was keeping an eye on the time, and I didn't want to worry that woman, so I turned around and went back down. And when you're old and out of shape, going down sometimes is just as hard as going up was. I had come down quite a way, so I sat down to rest, and pretty soon I saw some guy. He was looking for a lost hiker that turned out to be me. I might be misguided, but I'm certainly not lost. Oh well. The weather didn't get any better, so I decided to head back to the sea, which is at least down a few thousand feet, and it's gotta be warmer. I'm at Salton City, on the west side of the Salton Sea. You can see there's not a lot going on. You could camp here. Ground's not too bad. I don't know if this is, I'm on Yacht Club Road, so I don't know if this is what's left of what used to be a yacht club. Salton Sea, the city, is actually way up here. They have, there's really nothing down at this level. But you can see, I think you can see, where at some point the sea had come all the way up here. Also see people have driven through it. I just want to mention, so I don't forget, all these, if you look on Google Maps, all these are lots that were laid out. There's only a few people living down here. But all of this had been planned neighborhoods. You can see there's nothing there. The descendants of the Cahuilla tribe live in about 24 separate little areas. They have a truck stop and a casino located on the main road, in part thanks to Sonny Bono. And directly opposite seaward is the Salton City Beach. Which has certainly seen better days. There are quite a few people living here, and it's not quite as dramatic as Bombay Beach, but it does have a very similar feel. And among all the destruction, you find spaces of elegance. This is Desert Shores. It's a little bit further north. I just wanted you to see this. There's not much else interesting about Desert Shores. The entire beach area is fenced off, and there's signs, no trespassing. It's now owned by some government agency. Desert Shores is the last of the small towns on that side, and the first big city is Conchella. Although it's 30 miles north of the sea, I mention it because if you need anything, this is the place you have to come to. It has the grocery stores, it has laundromats. And after looking up the demographics on all these places, I'm not surprised to find it's almost 100% Hispanic. Which was cool because I kind of felt like I'd gone to Mexico without having to deal with the trouble of crossing the border and all that stuff. Like the south side, the north part of the Salton Sea is heavily agricultural. But rather than vegetables, it's primarily fruit. One other little town around the Salton Sea that we haven't visited, and that's the North Shore. This is about all there is to see from the highway. So I drove in a little bit, and here is a very fancy remodeled yacht club. which seems to function primarily as a daycare center. And although there were a few houses around and there's a small private gated community down the road a little bit, I think most of the people live on the other side of the railroad tracks up in the mountains. That brings us back around to the state park and the end of the tour of the Salton Sea. I hope you've enjoyed it, and please leave a comment, subscribe below if you feel inclined, and come back again. Thanks for watching.